Peace, bro. What's happening with you?
Hey, it is yet again another amazing day. It's October 15th, 2022, folks. Man, do you know that you will never get another October 15th, 2022 ever again? So guess what that means? That means that today you need to make it a great day. Make it a fantastic day. Guess what? You got goals you want to achieve? Take it one day at a time. And I promise you, if you keep doing that, taking it one day at a time and getting better each day, doing more each day, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a lifelong succession of a successful life. What's happening, fam? How's your week been, man?
Man, it's been awesome as usual. Always busy with a lot of achievements and doors to knock down. I like to call it putting out fires, right? Every time you put out a fire, you feel like a stronger fireman.
Hey, because it builds character, right?
Yes, it does.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, I'm ready to have a fantastic show today. Today's show, folks, we've got a nice topic for you. We're going to talk about emotions and men emotions and, should men have them? And we're going to talk about it. So, stay tuned. We're going to go ahead and bring the show in, and then we'll get into our segments and then the main topic, all that good stuff. But right now, folks, it is the Tipping Point Morning Show.
You are listening to The Tipping Point Show with your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, John Yeah. You ready? Streaming live all over social media and on your favorite music and podcast streaming platforms.
Yeah, you know what it is.
Also, check out thetippingpointshow.com. The Tipping Point Show.
I don't even know what's going on. Oh my god. Are you guys kidding me?
Absolutely, folks. It is the Tipping Point Morning Show. It's your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, as well as my other host, other brother from another mother, brother Esoteric Concepts himself. Family, let's get it in. First up to the stage, we have Mr. Crypto Kenny, the man himself. He's not a myth. He's not a legend. He's a legend in the making, folks. It's Brother Crypto Kenny. How you doing, fam?
I'm fantastic. Excited to be alive. Excited to take advantage of this day. Excited to, see what you guys have going on, and excited about bringing this information to everyone. Really just to speak about crypto today. I wanted to just talk to everyone about, if we do transition into a bull run in the next couple of days, weeks, months, or whatever the case may be, what would you guys do, to take advantage of it? We know about what happened to Bitcoin in 2016. We know about what happened to Bitcoin in 2010, or let's say 2017. We know what happened to Bitcoin, and we also know what happened in 2010. If it happens again, what would you do? Ask yourself that question. What would I do this time? If Bitcoin all of a sudden went from 19.1, where it is right now, 19.2, 19,200, and all of a sudden started shooting back up to $70,000, what would you do? Right? And that question is something that I even ask myself, because, it's one of those things where if that thing shot back up to 70,000, everybody's going to think that I'm rich, because they're going to be like, damn, you've been working this resource center for the last 2 years. Now it's at, 50,000, 60,000. What investments have you done? Where's your money? What have you been studying? So if that's something that I ask myself all the time, and I have to, with everything that I'm doing, with the coaching that I'm doing, the relationships that I'm building, I have to always, have that in the back of my mind to, be properly prepared. I can't imagine what the average person is thinking, right? Because we're not that far off from a bull run. When you look at these exchanges, these stocks, the way the market goes, is constantly up and down, up and down, up and down. And usually they say what goes up must come down, what goes down must come up. Now, we've been heading down for a very long time, and for people with money and that understand business and timing and getting things for a cheaper price, they're excited about that, especially if they haven't been affected financially with the movement going down. So that's something that I wanted everybody to think about. Right now, Bitcoin Campus has been assisting people with just educating them on the different aspects of cryptocurrency to understand what to do in situations, how to prepare yourself, how to start your portfolio, what programs to look into, how to invest your money. Those things are extremely important to really. Can you guys hear me? Oh, I just wanted to make sure that you guys could hear me good. Yeah, those things are really important for everybody to be able to at least start to recognize. And right now, because of the constant changes in the market and some of the things that we've invested in the past that didn't manifest, crypto is filled with projects that, are not finalized, that you're positioning yourself into so that when it does take off, you'll be one of the quote unquote forefathers in that specific project. And that's how you would have made your money. If you hear a lot of people in the industry that have, millionaires and changed their life because of Bitcoin, if you hear their story, it was because they were early adopters into something and then it took off. So that's what it is. It's all about positioning into these projects at an early time. Some of them won't, pan out, and some of them will take off. So it's really about understanding those, how to move, talking to the right people. Right now we have 2 projects that we really focus on. One is up 220% since April. So imagine that, there is projected to be over 400% for the year. Another project, you guys have heard me talk about the Get Fit Miner, moving to earn crypto and being able to get that in their system. They've had a lot of delays in their project, but they're slowly coming along. Mining just started. So now it's just about, doing the right directions in order to get to that point, making sure everything is activated in your phone correctly. So these are some things that we walk people through along with the education. So we're showing them different projects and helping them get involved and understand them. There's several projects out there in the crypto world. So, being connected to an organization that can actually assist you with doing things the right way is what Bitcoin Campus is all about. And I appreciate you having me on the show and, constantly being at the forefront of educating people in that specific industry. Whether someone takes advantage or not, it's really on them. But at the end of the day, you guys are doing your part. You can never say that you didn't have an opportunity to take advantage, before that bull run actually takes place and before Bitcoin explodes, because it absolutely will explode.
Let me ask you a question. Now, Bitcoin is the shiny object. That's the shiny object for everyone. And so Bitcoin now is like at 19,000. Now, when you're talking about millionaires and billionaires, when they go invest $1 million into a coin or into anything, and if they even get 1% a month, that 1% is like $10,000. That's a lot of money for a millionaire to put that kind of money in and just throw that kind of money over there. For a person that, is an average, $20,000, $30,000 a year individual, may have a few $100s to try to throw over there, and looking at that percentage being small. What coin is the next Bitcoin that's going to do what Bitcoin did over that run? Because when we're talking about Bitcoin, it makes it seem like, okay, that's the shiny object. Even I wished I got in it and stayed in. I wish I advised my daughter to stay in it instead of she sold her coin, I believe, in 2000 or early or late 2019. So the question is, for an individual who's on a smaller level listening, when you talk about 19,000 per coin, I know it's a percentage if you get into it and you just buy a small percent. But for the small person who wants to get in, what would be the next coin that's going to take off and be that rocket like Bitcoin?
Okay, there's a couple. I mean, there's just rumors out there in the market in terms of the news. So, quote unquote experts will say this coin is, the next Bitcoin to take off or whatever the case may be. But I would look into Ethereum, just because of, some of the things that they've done in the past. They have a more sophisticated engineering aspect for people to code their blockchain. The regular blockchain of Bitcoin can't be coded in except for Bitcoin. These are things that you would just kind of like educate yourself on. The deeper you go into crypto, there are cryptocurrencies out there that have their own blockchain system. Ethereum, Binance, Tron, Polygon. There are companies out there that already have designed their own blockchain. And Ethereum did that, and now there's hundreds of thousands of companies, or thousands, let's say thousands of companies that are using Ethereum's blockchain to create their own programs underneath. Then that's where you get to decentralized financing, so on and so forth, Web3, things that are outside of just the norm for government to tax. So that's kind of like where crypto kind of is separating themselves in terms of finances, because you have these programs out here that you can build in, and you can get involved into projects that are not even a cent yet, and they will be done on different blockchains. So you'd have to understand that blockchain, the fees of the cryptocurrencies blockchain that you're on. And when you say the next cryptocurrency coin, there's a lot, that's going to do what Bitcoin did, because of the simple fact that Bitcoin did when Bitcoin exploded, it was around $9,000 if you didn't get in like super early. So it went, it had to jump from like 9,000 to 20. And then after that, it dropped down to like 13, and then it gradually climbed to like, 70, right? So if you think about that, Bitcoin is at 19,000, Ethereum's at like 12,000, and there's a lot of cryptocurrencies out there that are under $100, some are under $10, some are under $1. But then you got to realize the movement. XRP is another project that people think is gonna blow up, and there's a lot of tokens out there that a lot of people don't even know about, that have movements that you would just have to be involved in the crypto space to even understand, because you'd actually have to know how to even buy it as well, because it won't be available.
Some of those, when I joined the Bitcoin campus, then I learned other ways and other platforms to purchase tokens and coins that I didn't know about before. Now, you have, I've got some holdings or hodling in some other coins and on other platforms. So that's one of the benefits to the Bitcoin campus, folks. And, this right here, you ever go to the tippingpointshow.com and you hit up our partners link here, and right there, you see that logo, the Tipping Point Show right there over Bitcoin campus. You can click that and you can join, and you're actually going to join for almost half the price than you normally would if you just go straight to Bitcoin campus, right? So with that in mind, being able to jump in and make a couple bucks, learn really the knowledge is what's most important, because there are some people out here making good money doing this. There's people out here that have gotten so good at learning how these markets move that they teach other people, and they make money in that space as well. They find that they're good at teaching other people. So there's plenty of ways to get involved, and you're right, there's going to be a bull run. What goes down must come up. So absolutely, folks. Crypto Kenny, hey, brother John, you want to ask him anything before he goes?
No, that was my question.
Okay. All right, cool. So we're gonna get into this topic.
Ethereum and XRP.
Go ahead.
Ethereum and XRP. Everything else, anything else is a little bit more sophisticated, and you have to understand how to buy it on a different blockchain. But that takes more education. But for those that just listening and wants to know, projects that are going to explode, to look at some of the main coins outside of Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP.
I do have a question. I do have one question. Okay. So this topic here is about men's emotions. Okay. And so tell us, should men have and or show emotions? What's your opinion on that?
I love this topic. Something that when you're speaking to, when you're speaking to the opposite sex, you would, especially when you're arguing or debating with, you would think that emotions kind of like hinder you, because you speak to men, everything is so black and white, everything makes so much sense. And when you speak to women, it gets a little blurry. You start seeing things from other perspectives, and you put the feelings inside, and then you like, oh, okay, I could kind of see how that works. Should men have emotions? Absolutely. I think there's a balance that's needed. But to be quite honest, emotions can make or break anybody, because if you don't know you have to know how to manage your emotions, and that takes time, takes experiences, because if you don't manage your emotions properly, you'll you could probably end up in jail for the rest of your life, or doing something that you regret forever. So emotional balance is critical, especially in today's times. We see so many, you see so many things on TV with people, shooting somebody. Like, if you really look at that scenario, what made you kill somebody? And these people are making decisions in 2 minutes that'll cost them their entire life. You're in jail. The person that killed Pop Smoke, you guys seen that that thing that went viral, like him eating Pizza Hut? Like, that's what your life will be. Your life will turn into people getting mad at you for eating Pizza Hut while you're in jail, for making a split-second decision to kill somebody because of your emotions. So sometimes with the way that people grow up, men especially African American men or black men, however we want to categorize ourselves, I think about this all the time, because of the fact that we're so quick to do violent crimes, when we're angry to prove a point. But that same violence is going to put you away, and it's going to ruin your life, and it's going to impact the lives of the people that are closest to you. So emotional balance is what's absolutely important. And do men need to have emotions? To a degree, not as emotional as women. However, you can't be emotionless, because then you become an outcast to normal ways of society and how things are done, and you still won't be able to feel yourself in the moment. So it's a very tricky question. I think is a great topic for you guys to have. I'm excited for you guys to have a fantastic show today. But when asking, it's a personal question, so asking me that specifically, that's kind of like the feedback that I give, what I just shared.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate it, man. We will see you next time right here on the Tipping Point Show, folks. Remember, bitcoincampus.org. Go to the tippingpointshow.com. You can find us there, find the Bitcoin Campus there as well. All right, brother. Crypto Kenny, we appreciate you.
Peace, brother.
Guys.
All right. Next up to the stage, folks, we got the Stock Spotlight with brother Leonard Walker. Family, welcome to the stage. How you doing there?
How you doing, brother? How you doing? All right, brother. How we doing? Good. So let's jump on into this. Here, I'm going to talk about a stock that you guys may want to put on your watch list. Matter of fact, go on and put it on your watch list. This is one that you guys are very probably familiar with. I know most of you guys probably go to this place, and sometimes you might get angry. Sometimes you might get a little emotional over, over going to this place. But the stock I want to talk about today is the grocery store Kroger. Yes. If anybody is in let me just go ahead and get the particulars. Kroger, ticker symbol KR, traded on the New York Stock Exchange. I see Heather say, oh. Let me get into particulars. Right now it's trading at $43.16, so it's under $50. It pays a quarterly dividend of $1.04. It pays a yearly dividend of $1.04. Pay a quarterly dividend of 26 cents. It has a dividend yield of 2.8%. 41%. Its 52-week high was $62.78, and its 52-week low was $37.50. Kroger's been around since 1902. They started their first IPO in 1928, where they joined the New York Stock Exchange, and they have a 16-year streak of paying out dividends. Okay, 16-year streak of paying out dividends. They've been paying dividends out since 2006, and their dividends have increased it's increased every year for 16 years. So that right there is reason enough to say, well, why do I want to kind of jump into a stock that only pays 2.4 percent dividend yield? It's only paying me $1, a year, whatever, because they are on the move. All right, just in case you didn't hear, Kroger is merging with its longtime rival Albertsons.
Yep.
Yep, that is what they're doing. They are merging with their longtime rival Albertsons. Kroger, people don't realize, Kroger owns a lot of grocery stores. Okay, in Chicago, there's a grocery store called Mariano's. Yep, Mariano's is now merging with Osco, with Jewel Osco. For those of us that are familiar with the Chicagoland area, Jewel Osco has been around since, wow. So like I said, is Kroger is making power moves. All right, Kroger's getting ready to be the largest grocery store chain in America. They're going to be in 48 states. So that's something to be looking at and to be thinking about. So wow, this might be something I might want to look into. Now here's the warning is, while Kroger's making these power moves and we're going to be watching them, so will the government be watching them. Okay, because the government is trying to make sure that they don't form a monopoly, right? In which you got, you've got Publix out there, you got Walmart, but that's who they really want to compete with is Walmart and Amazon, because Amazon bought Whole Foods. So that's who they really want to kind of compete with. But here's the difference. Kroger's is saying that they will, because of the volume, because of the size of their company, they're actually going to lower grocery prices, because one of the main concerns is inflation and price gouging when it comes to these groceries and stuff. So that's, our government is trying to step in to make sure, the super grocery chain doesn't gouge us. But the way that works is, once you become larger, they can make their money in volume, right? Mm-hmm. So they can charge a lower price for groceries and still be able to turn a profit and still be able to pay their dividends and still be able to increase their dividends. Like I said, they're about 9 years away from being a dividend aristocrat. Okay. And like I said, everything is trending up. So now their prices are falling. Stock prices are falling just like with everybody else's. So this may be a time for you to look at trying to get into Kroger and saying, hey, let me wait and see, if they drop a little bit more, maybe I'll go ahead and buy me some shares.
Well, that's something that usually happens when a big company merges or buys another big company, and,
right.
and the stock's going to have an effect. But yes, you're right. Hang in there. You'll watch it come back up.
Hang in there. Like I say, Albertsons is ACI. I really wouldn't fool with Albertsons. I mean, some people want to try to buy them and time it before the merger is complete, right? I think I would stick with Kroger. Kroger's the bigger company, okay? Kroger's the bigger company. That's the one that you want to watch, right? So like I said, is just doing my research on them. Even here in North Carolina and on the East Coast, there's a company called Harris Teeter, which is a subsidiary of Kroger. They got all types of subsidiary companies all over the place. So Kroger's what we want to look at.
Awesome, man. So, hey, y'all heard it right here with the stock spotlight with Brother Leonard Walker. Again, as we're looking at this, you shop at the grocery store. Guess what? You should own stock at the grocery store as you shop there, So.
And here's what's interesting, we had a show about capitalism, And this is the form of what we're talking about when we're talking about capitalism. Well, a company buys out another company. They buy their competition. So there is no competition. And I think that can become an issue when you are the big giant company, and you can kind of do what you want to do, and people don't have no choice because why? You done bought out all your competition. That's what Whole Foods did. Whole Foods here bought out another company here. I forget the name at the moment, but they bought out another company here that was like a organic type of food, natural food. And so they can take over. It's almost like they buy that.
Rainbow Blossom.
No, Rainbow Blossom's still here. It
Okay.
is. It was another grocery store out on Shelbyville Road that was a natural foods before Whole Foods came here, and then Whole Foods
Gotcha.
bought them out. But and that becomes the fear when you start buying out the competition, and all you got left is that one. So you just have to stick with that, opposed to someone competing against them, competing against their prices. When there's competition, and that's good for the consumer.
Right.
But we can have choices. So that's kind of a scary thing for them to become the biggest and the onlyest. I'm hoping that somebody continues to compete against them because it continues to keep them on their toes and make them better. Because when you just have one company, and companies start doing what it wants to do because it have no competition, and you ain't got nowhere else to go if you get pissed off with the company. But if the company's got competition, it always keeps itself in check to the consumers because they are afraid that you will go running over there with your money.
Right. So you still have Whole Foods, obviously, which is Amazon. You still have Walmart. You still have Aldi.
Mm-hmm.
You still have Lidl. You still have Publix. Publix is like growing as well because here where I live, they just built the Publix distribution center off of one of the highways out in the little rural area,
Love
and
Publix.
it's
Publix,
like
yeah.
Publix is like I'm looking at their distro center. It's like 100 dock doors and trucks and all kinds of stuff. So Kroger's got some competition out there, but still, as an investor, like I said, this is a good sign. All right, to say okay, so this may be like I said, as far as their history goes, and as far as the power moves that they're trying to make, this may be something that you're interested in. So that's a good
Awesome.
thing.
Awesome. All right, brother. Well, we appreciate you bringing the stock spotlight this week. Until next time.
Got a question before you go, brother.
That's right.
Yes,
You gotta answer this question.
Okay, so should men have or should they show their emotions? And I forgot this part. Is that something that will feminize men by showing emotions? Just thought you would have an opinion on that.
Okay, so men have emotions and men show emotions. We show emotions every Sunday. All right, watching football, players, fans, everything. See, so we are already emotional.
Yeah.
I think the question is, I think it gets down to getting things done, right? It is the job of a man to get things done. So when it comes to getting things done, that's when we have to switch the logical switch on. It's, all right, I got to get this thing done, so I got to be able to put my emotions in a proper perspective. So I might have to slide out of my emotional self so I can go ahead and get into my logical self to get this stuff done, and then I can worry about the emotions later. Being a veteran, that's one of the things that we deal with is with PTSD is the emotional damage that comes along with the trauma that you've dealt with. So one of those things is if you've been to war or if you've been in any type of emergency type situation where trauma happens, okay, a tragedy happens, you have to put your emotions to the side and complete the mission, right? Problem is in the military is the missions never end. So you have all of this pent up stored emotions, okay, of trauma, and eventually they spill out. See, so yeah, men are emotional and men show emotions. It's just we're tasked with getting things done and having to get stuff done and do things. So we have to, switch these emotions off and turn the logical mind on. Well, sometimes those emotions can drive you. Like I said, on the football field, you can get focused but then you also get emotional as well to get you hyped up.
So you're a military man, and this is a great point I want to ask you. When training for the military, you're trained to kill.
Yes.
You ain't trained for nothing else. You're trained to how to kill people. Now how do you
That's basic training. That's your first
right.
thing.
The basic training in the military is killing people. It's just that simple, right?
Yeah.
So how do there's a method that they train when they're sending you through training to teach you how to contain your emotions. Is that correct? Because you can't be emotional going to war and wanting to turn back. You are trained to get a job done. And in order to get that job done, you got to get over your emotions in order to make that target and take that target out.
Well, it's kind of funny because, what you learn is what you have is you have a NCO or you have leadership that will be emotional. They're actually trying to get you to do what does not come natural. It is not natural to kill somebody. It is not natural, right? So what these NCOs do is try to keep you focused on the mission at hand, right? Or keep you focused on what it is you got to do in order to achieve what you have to do. So there may be some yelling. There may be some emotions. There may be some things to say, hey, guess what? This is serious. This is life or death. Okay, we are training for life or death. So I'm going to be all in your ass, right? And because when the time comes, sometimes you got to be able to react without thinking. All right. It's got to be muscle memory. It's got to be, things that are there. You're training. So in the training process, yeah, those NCOs, those drill sergeants and drill instructors and those guys, they will get emotional because they're going to get in your face. Now, I don't know about today's military. All right. Today's military might be a little bit different. All right. But also, like I said, is still you still got to achieve a mission. You still got to, follow through. So it's a balance between how to get emotional and how to get focused, right? The instructors are emotional trying to get you focused, right, on what it is you got to do. So that's how that works.
All right.
All right, man. Well, I tell you what, thanks for chiming in on that subject. We appreciate you. Until next time, Brother Leonard Walker. Peace.
Peace.
All right, folks. We're going to do a quick commercial. Then we're going to come right back and we'll have Lady Brazilianaire come up with 5 minutes in financing. Again, it is the Tipping Point Show. We will be right back.
Hey folks, check out healthdandywow.net. 100% plant-based herbs and supplements. Whether you're in person or online, use the word tipping for 10% off. Remember, feel better, look great, healthdandywow.net. Remember, healthdandywow.net.
I don't need to sit at your table. We building one. We in the process of building a table. We building a table. I don't gotta sit at your table. I'm building my own table, and I will build you a table in the presence of your enemies.
BB Trading Company, home of soap, sticks, and Saya Baba products. Over 400 locations at a store near you. Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or find yours online at sayababa.com. Again, that's sayababa.com. A BB Trading Company, where you can find fragrances to incite your senses.
You are listening to The Tipping Point Show with your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, John Yeah. You ready? Streaming live all over social media and on your favorite music and podcast streaming platforms.
Yeah, you know what it is.
Also, check out thetippingpointshow.com. The Tipping Point Show.
I don't even know what's going on. Oh my god. Oh my god. Are you guys kidding me?
All right, folks. All right. We are back. It is the Tipping Point Morning Show. Let's go ahead and bring up next to the stage Lady Brazilianaire with 5 minutes in financing, Miss Heather Weatherspoon. How are you doing, Miss CEO?
Good morning, Kings. How are you?
All right.
Fantastic.
So my tip today for this week for all the parents is make your child an authorized user on your credit cards. Now, I need for you to do some research because every credit card company is different. So I'll use me for example. My son is now 15. When he turned 14, I made him an authorized user on my Capital One. What does that do for him? When mommy pays the bill on time, that allows for my son's credit score to actually produce and increase. So at a very young age, I am giving my son a better life than what my parents gave me. The more you know, the more you grow. Be sure that you do this research on every single credit card company that you have. Also, he is also my employee. And because he is my employee, what does he have? He has a green American Express card because he is an employee. So how does that happen? When mommy pays the bill or when the boss pays the bill on time, it allows his credit score to rise. Now, the third thing that I've done for him is I have given him a spending limit. Remember, he's 15, so he likes to play video games. So he gets $50 a month. And because he is my employee, he works. And I take a portion of his paycheck and I put it towards his bill. So not only am I teaching him how to balance and budget his money, but I'm also helping him raise his credit score. And again, he's only 15. That is my tip.
That is an awesome way of preparing your child financially to understand how money works. A lot of wealthy people do that also, put their kids on their credit card, and you're absolutely right. It builds their credit up before they even become an adult. They already got A1 credit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. My son right now, he has 3 credit cards, but I only allow him to actually use the American Express because we get points. But I make sure that everything else either has a low balance or 0 balance, and he has his own.
Awesome. Question for you. Should men have and or show emotion, and is showing emotion something that is feminizing men today?
It depends on which woman you ask. I'm going to say it is okay for a man to show and have emotions.
Okay.
However, when one continues to harper over that emotion, instead of fixing that emotion or fixing the problem that has caused you to have that emotional reaction, we then call you weak. So it is okay to show and display your emotion. It's perfectly fine, but just don't hold it for too long.
Good point.
Gotcha. Good point. All right. Well, folks, that is it. There you have Miss Heather Weatherspoon, 5 minutes in financing. Miss Lady Brazilianaire. We will see you next week. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
All right. Man, so this is a an interesting topic, great stuff with everybody already coming on and chiming in on this topic here. But definitely requires some I would almost say some shadow work to really evaluate this question. Should men have and show emotions? Is it feminizing men? There's a term out there, he-motions. where people say for men having emotions. You know, you're one of the ones, you know, you come to the table with topics, and you know, we will discuss, go back and forth with titles and how to title it and such like that, formatting of titles. But for the most part, you know, it as it comes out of your mind is typically how we display it. When you brought this to the table, when you thought about this, then what was on your mind as you thought about this title?
You know, you had a topic on Truth Be Told. Um, what was that topic? What was the heading of that topic?
On Truth Be Told,
Yeah, your Truth Be Told. Your last show that you had was about feminizing. Wasn't it about feminizing men, or
was it Truth Be Told, or was it the
Truth Be Told?
relationship
Your
coach?
last show. No, your Truth Be Told, the one that I came
Huh.
in on.
Okay, yeah. That
Has the
last
feminine
show topic.
movement been a benefit?
Yeah,
Uh,
has the feminist
correct.
movement been a benefit or a detriment to women, specifically ADOS or American descendants of slaves or African American women? Yes. And you know, great topic there. Uh-huh.
Right. So it kind of maybe spawned from that discussion, when we're talking. And I know you and I, we had this topic before when we had a couple of clinical psychologists on our show talking about men's emotions. And this has got a lot of layers to it when we're talking about men's emotions. And so in a sense, when we're talking about the problem with men today, we got to look at something here. And I'm coming from two different lenses. I'm coming from a lens of the 60s, and I have the lens of today. Okay. So it's a two different types. I see two different types of men here. And so something happened in between here that you have. So I give you an example. Um, Women who have came up with fathers in the home are different type of women who did not have a father. It's just that simple. And they behave different towards their men. Okay, it is the same. It is the same the other way around, where men who was raised by women are different men who were raised and had fathers in their life. It's two different types of boys. Okay. So now we have today, and sometimes we don't want to look at it from this point, but we have today of this mass shooting. We got so much killing's been going on for years, you know, right? And so going to prison, not handling their emotion, killing people, getting upset, wanting to kill someone. Those are emotions. Okay. And so the question is, what is the proper human behavior? And I think that's what's missing when it talks about men's emotion. I see men emotion today way out of control compared to men emotions back in my day. It's a different ball game. Now, men everyone naturally has emotions. It's just who you are. A smile is an emotion. Sadness is an emotion. Being happy is an emotion. If a man smiles, he's showing his emotions. So he's having emotions and he's expressing his emotions. Okay, so let's clear that out, because everyone has emotions. Now, when we're talking about, there are emotions that block you. Okay, so when a boy's coming up, this is why you hear men telling boys crying is for girls. You know, that's a terminology that is used, and it's sort of a metaphor. But at the same time, if a boy's crying, let him get that out, but don't let him stop and go in a corner and cry. So in the dojo, or even in the boxing ring or whatever, you see, we are competitors. Men are competitors, and we're bred to be competitors against each other as boys. This is why we have boy sports, to get out that anger, to get out that energy, to compete against another boy. This is how he becomes better. Not compete against a girl, compete against another boy. he becomes better. Now, when a boy goes through that, for instance, if he's in the dojo and he's hit and he starts crying, the teacher doesn't tell him go sit down. No, it teaches him to work through that emotion. You got hit, okay, you get worked through it. Next time you get hit, you ain't crying. You see, you work through it. You continue to work through your emotions. The problem, I think, what we have today, because of kids today, or these young men today, I believe 40 and under, the majority of the 40 and under people today who are not raised and did not have fathers is the number one reasons why you're seeing easy killings today. People killing each other for senseless reasons. Step on my shoes, push me, picked a bike before I picked it, like the guy down at the Belvedere. Somebody was getting a bike before he got it. You know, arguments over stuff like that identifies that the individual emotions are out of control. And so in the dojo, or even in the boxing ring, or even in football, you are taught and you are trained to control your emotions. Meaning that when you're in a company of men, men don't cry in front of other men. And I don't know where they do that at. But in my days, you don't show that emotion in front of other men. Now, you can go home crying to your mama, or you can even show that tears to your wife or your woman when you're broken down, but don't stay there. Because if you stay there, like Sister Heather said, you're going to appear to be weak in front of your woman. Don't stay in that genre for long. You have to get up and get out of that. It doesn't mean you won't have issues, but you got to be able to work through those issues. And I think the number one problems we have today with men is that men do not know how to control their emotions.
So as we look at this and we think about it, you know, one of the things that Crypto Kenny brought up as well was as it pertains to the melanated community. You know, there seems to be a short fuse issue. All right. And obviously that is all about emotions.
Yep.
And it seems as if it's a greater issue within our community than others. What is it that has triggered that or creates that trigger in our community more than others? Why we have these emotional, because those emotions are what has us seeing something in the media and then commenting on it, making judgment right away, yet we don't even have all the facts in yet. You know what I mean? We do it all the time. And it happens over and over. It's as if no one learns anything. But what is it that has created that emotional pool? Is this just the melanated community? Are we just a passionate people, and that's why we have these uncontrolled emotions that allow us to move towards these triggers so easily?
Well, yeah. See, okay. So, now you're right. We're very emotional. And what the powers to be have learned how to do is manipulate our emotions for his benefit. Because we are emotional, we don't think first, we move off our emotion. And there's reasons that's going on. As you mentioned of what we see today, if you look at who raised these boys are emotional women. Most of these young men today that do not know how to control their emotion was not raised in a home with a father. That's the one major reason. Right now, we're having what is called a gender role swap, where men are starting to act weak like women and women are starting to act strong like men. So it's like a reverse role swap. Women are raising boys without the absence of a man in the home is the number one problem. In some cases, not all, women would allow the boy to continue to breastfeed past the age that he's supposed to. If he's being breastfed, that's good, because some of the problems with these young boys out here today is because they wasn't breastfed. The other problem is they was may have been breastfed too long, you know, because at a certain point, 5-year-old is just you just babying this little boy. He ain't become a man. You still sucking on your breast at 5. He got teeth. He's supposed to be eating food at that time, but you didn't give him to his daddy, so you continue to cuddle him, hold him, and make him into a baby. And that is the issue. One of the issues of the feminizing men is to get him to cry and show his emotion outwardly, when he can't do that in a mix of men that controls their emotions. And here's the thing about that, and we got to look at this. Your most successful men that you see that are successful controls their emotions. In order for you to set amongst kings, the man must be able to control his emotions. And that's a practice if you wasn't raised by your father and that becomes something innate, then it's something you need to practice. I've seen young men come into the dojo without fathers, crying, and then they get better later. It's the same discussion when we talk about women bringing boys to the barbershop. You can tell if a boy has a daddy or not, because he's gonna whine his and cry his ass off just getting a haircut. Well, if he was with his father, he would be like, I can't wait to get in the chair because I want to be like my dad. You see what I'm saying? So you can actually tell the two different. Why is he so emotional in that chair? Why is he acting like that? Because he's raised by a woman with no father figure. And that becomes an issue of why we having these young men pants hanging down. Men don't know how to control their emotions. So guess what they do? They go to substance. These young boys are going to a substance, alcohol, drugs, marijuana, and they use the substance to cover up their emotions. And then they become out of control. Now they're killing somebody out here, robbing somebody, and doing the craziest things because they weren't able to control that one piece that they never was learned how to control, and that's emotion. See, women are more emotional than men, and they're supposed to be, because they
naturally, right?
Right, they're the caretaker. The emotion drives the woman. Ego drives the man. Getting shit done drives the man. Protecting his family drives the man, right? That piece of feeling good, I protected my family, is an ego buildup. He feels good because that's a masculinity trait. Not being weak in crime, get up and make shit happen. The child and the wife want to see that strength in that man, not being weak and in the corner crying when something happens and something's going down. When you got someone that's knocking at your door trying to break in your door, what do you do at that point? You have to show some type of anger is also an emotion, but you're going to have to show some type of backbone to challenge that instead of weeping out crying. Again, everyone has emotions, and each emotion is a mechanism. Anger is an emotion that is a mechanism. Happy is an emotion. Sadness is an emotion. All are emotions. There are some emotions you should not show. Some emotions there's certain times you shouldn't laugh at a joke, even though you feel like laughing. You got to control that. I can't laugh at that. Why? Because it may piss somebody else. That's called controlling your emotions. Not being able to just burst out crying. Don't go to prison and start crying. Better not do. And listen, don't go to the army and start crying. The Navy SEALs only want the best of men to learn how to kill and learn how to be amongst them. They don't take the weak ones, right?
You know, you said something interesting. Men want to protect, and even in that protection, there's financial protection. They want to get shit done. So that's having things to do. Those things happen in a family atmosphere, right? You got to put up shelves for baby girl. Your son, you got to teach him to do this. The car goes down. You're there, so you got to fix it. It's interesting when you say that, because when I think about what has happened, especially in the melanated community, a lot of that has been taken away because the family structure has been broken up.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, he doesn't have to provide any financial protection because she can get it, right? You're going to see more of the woman being the custodial parent than the man. And early on in the 70s, as they broke up the family, pulled the man out in the melanated community more so than others, then there's no more of that. So now men are losing the idea of being men. You know what I mean? So let's look at this comment real quick. Johnny J, she says recent studies have proven that many neurotransmitters may play a pivotal role in emotions as substrates for emotions. Simply put, emotions are nothing but neuromodulators. Okay, so let's think about that for a second. I want to delve into that. Neuromod. There we go. Neuromodulator. Which is a neuromodulator? What are neuromodulators? Neuromodulators are wrinkle relaxing injections. Okay, no, that's not it. That's Botox.
No, what she referring to is what I call peptide neurotransmitters.
Exactly.
So peptides is okay. I'll give you an example. If you have a thought and that thought creates an emotion, and you got new cells in your body, those cells become attached to that memory. So if you're thinking sad, you feel sad. There's the emotion. So emotion is in the body. Okay, intelligence is in the head. So when you have an emotion, you feel it. That's why you cry, you feel weak, you feel tired, you feel emotions. And so sometimes you can have so much emotion build up, a lot of sissy ass emotion build up as a man, and that will just make you cry for no reason. You will watch a movie and start crying. Those kind of things happen. Or if you was abused and you see someone else abused, it can make you emotional, make you mad, angry, or can make you cry, because that is already in you. So that means that your thought pattern saw something that you can relate to, because you suffered the same thing. Now, by that thought pattern, you have now triggered those emotions, those dead emotions that were somehow dormant in your body. Because of that thought triggered them. Now you feel bad again because you have risen and woke up those emotions.
Absolutely, absolutely. This was interesting because the first thing I think of when I see this, for instance, neuromodulation is the physiological process by which a given neuron uses one or more chemicals to regulate diverse population neuron. Okay, so these are things happening in the body, in the brain. The first thing I see is the word chemicals, and then what it makes me think of is the idea that through poor diet, especially in this day and age, are we synthetic chemicals and ingredients right now in the foods, are we messing up the chemical balance in our brain, which allows emotions to be triggered ill-mannered? So
Absolutely.
uh you know short fuses, not creating that space between action versus reaction in order to breathe and have a sound mind to think and say, maybe I shouldn't pull my piece out and end this person's life that looks like me. Which again, that even delves into another subject, and we tackled that before, and you spoke on that. Is it's so easy for us to kill people that look like us because of our low self-esteem that we have within us anyway. But interesting stuff when you start talking about that, because people don't, this isn't a conversation that's had. People don't associate, the emotions with even diet. So you go to a psychologist, they're not going to sit there and say, listen, you need to start juicing some greens because you need some more oxygen flow in the body, so that you can start thinking better. They don't do that. No, they subscribe you some type of Western medicine, medication of some sort that is going to, mess with your synapses and things of that nature and start triggering things that you shouldn't be thinking about. Let's look at some more of these comments here. Let's see. Every time you control emotions, you create new neural pathways that, when in the same situations, those situations will not affect you in any way. Emotions have no race or color. Absolutely. Akasha Rise says, I believe we have to get back to the root of the problem. The way our families are structured right now are based on European models. Many of us melanated people are from indigenous roots.
Absolutely.
And that's interesting, because that plays a part when you start talking about understanding your blood type and the type of foods that you should be eating. understanding your history to, which part of Africa, for instance, you may have come from, and the type of foods that you should be consuming, which could then balance those chemicals within the body, right? Interesting stuff. Make you think a little bit better, right? Our family unit was not just a man and a woman and the children. The entire village,
Played a role.
word, village was responsible for raising the children. The child actually belonged to the village. Bruh, I remember when I was a kid, growing up, I could get in trouble by my friends' parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They governed me the same way they governed him.
That's right.
My homeboy. And if one person was having a cookout, in this neighborhood, in this at that time, I can remember, man, what was it? I forget the neighborhood, but either way, Richmond, Virginia, growing up in a little apartment complex hood or whatever, if one person having a cookout, everybody had a cookout.
Mm-hmm.
It was you could go up to that person. People knew their neighbors. I could be up the street and someone else that I didn't know per se, an adult, could say, "Hey, you need to get out the street. Stop doing that. Stop playing." And I listened. Nowadays, people don't even know their next door neighbor. They don't even want to know them. They don't have a desire to even, care about who their next door neighbor is, let alone understand the ideology of an actual village. Let's get some more to some of these comments, man. Appreciate y'all chiming in. Johnny J says, I just feel that at this point in the game of life, for many, we need to study our brains and body to see that we hold on to traumas by choice. Man, absolutely. That is powerful right there, because yes, I believe that to be absolutely true.
Yep.
Holding on to traumas by choice. People say a lot of things about this, that, and the other. You don't have a choice for everything is a choice, I believe.
Everything.
And I would even beg to say that because you know what I'm about to say, slavery, as Kanye said, but again, what he's talking about is the mental, enchantment of slavery versus, the physical. Just the same, that man that a woman decided to have sex with was not bound to the child. He was only bound to the woman. And if anything happened to their bond, he left back to his village. Interesting. and maybe if Akasha could elaborate when they say he was only bound to the woman, and if anything happened to their bond. What bond? Is it the bond between the man and the woman, or the bond between the child and the man, or the child and the woman? That's elaborate on that.
Right. So, one of the things I think is mentioned here is the man that has a woman, the man that has woman decided to have sex with was not bound to the child. Now, what that's saying is this. Okay, so that means that that's all he was after was the sex. He wasn't after building a family. And so it is just like the oxytocin, the chemical that is released from the brain, that is a bonding chemical, the bonding chemical for two people coming together. Okay, that means that so the woman produces the chemical more than the man. The woman can produce that chemical off first meeting a man on first sight. Well, it may take a while for that man to produce that chemical, but if he has sex with her and he has not produced that bonding chemical, he can walk away from her. He's not really connected to her. And this is why you see men today can easily walk away from their child because that bonding chemical is not there. It is hard to walk away from your child if you have a bond with them. And I mean a chemical mental bond, that there is something in your body and something in your brain tell you got to hear from that person. You gotta be around in that person's space. That's a chemical in the brain that makes you feel like that.
And so I'm actually kind of, I think, putting two and two together here. Going back to Akasha's earlier comment, our family unit was not just a man and a woman and the children. The entire village was responsible for raising the children. The child actually belonged to the village, the man that a woman decided to have sex with was not bound to the child. He was only bound to the woman. And if anything happened to their bond, he left back to his village.
And where would that leave the child?
Exactly. So that's my question. It seems as though the child stays with the mother, and the man goes back to the village. Does that mean that the child and the mother now become an outcast? I've been watching some African TV shows lately on Netflix, or segments, parts, movies, stuff like that, and I see that. Because in Africa, or some parts of Africa, the law, a man, depending upon his wealth, can have multiple wives. But you see what's played out in some of these movies or shows is a lot of single women left with a child, which is kind of interesting when we started talking about this. The father figures for the children was to come from the man in that village. The man's job was to protect the people in their village and to help provide for the people in their village. So I guess, again, that bond between the man and father is not as strong, but the father helping to protect not just his family first, but the village as a whole. Seemingly, interesting stuff there. Interesting thoughts.
There are different, and I want to touch on that food thing. But there are different. When we talk about Africa, there's different cultures, and when we talk about methods, there are many different cultures in certain tribes and certain groups of how they raise and teach and prepare their children for manhood, prepare their men for manhood. And so that plays a role. Now, when it comes to food, and that definitely plays a role in the chemistry of our brain. Certain foods increases hormones, and it blocks certain hormones. And so there are certain foods you should not be eating because it may block a hormone like an estrogen or a testosterone hormone. So foods play a role. Foods also play a role in the way you think. It can definitely affect your thinking. Food in your gut, not processing food properly in your gut, will have an effect on your brain. Anger is derived out of the liver. When the liver is disrupted or it is going through something, it will easily cause you to be angry over the simplest things because your liver is agitated. Alcohol can mess with your liver. Too much salt can mess with your liver, and you find yourself easily agitated and angry. Now, here's a subject about epigenetics, and which is interesting because the understanding of how the brain works, you can have a thought and actually change your DNA or something that is in you that you probably got from your parent based on the way you think about yourself. This is how you can heal your body from a disease through thought. That is described in what we call epigenetics.
Absolutely. And I was delving into that just the same. As you were talking about, that epigenetics is the study of how your behaviors and environment can cause change that affect the way your genes work. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetics changes are reversible. Like you said, you can use your thoughts to do that, and do not change your DNA sequence because it's not physical. Right? Yeah. It's a mental thought and change. But they can change how your body reads a DNA sequence. So that even makes me think about the things where, as a person is working out, they envision the body that they want. So you, in a sense, what they're saying is you can trick the mind, in a sense, by thought.
Right.
Using that subconscious mind. That's interesting because a lot of this stuff, it ties into some of the things that we talk about all the time, which is really interesting. Johnny J says, Jewel Pookrum says, the seat of God is the cerebellum of your brain. We can change our emotions by studying and being accountable for our own growth. Absolutely. Good
And
stuff.
that's the hardest piece. The hardest piece is looking inward. That's the hardest piece for anyone. We easily point the fingers at others, at all of our problems, and not knowing that it's actually we designed that and how we interpret it.
The scariest thing for most people, you really want to, if y'all into Halloween and you really want to scare the shit out of people for Halloween, just make you a costume that has a bunch of mirrors on it. Just walk around outside. The scariest thing for most people is a damn mirror. Although as we look at people wearing tights and stuff, a lot of times people don't have a mirror. But with that being said, I absolutely agree. Looking at yourself first, and again, that is that um emotional intelligence, that space between action versus reaction. Your upbringing, your surroundings, your environment all plays a part into how large that space is. So your ability to think first, comes from so many different dynamics, and being able to actually and think about how you may have played the part in a situation versus being so quick to say it's your fault, it's their fault, it's somebody else's fault. So it's just interesting as we start talking about this. Akasha Rise says the child belongs to the woman's village. If a man left, the child is still left intact because his father figures are in his village. Okay, all right. That's and so that makes sense when you start talking about it takes a village to raise a child, right?
Well, yeah, it also it takes a village because specifically in these days, or even in the past, when men went off to war and they end up being killed, that left the woman fatherless, or the child fatherless, and the woman husbandless. And so that means that now it would take the uncle, maybe the brother, someone else in the family to help raise that child to become a man. It's important that the village is there, because what if the father falls?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And same for the woman. If the woman falls and there's a girl there, she still needs the mother nurturing to learn how to be a woman.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
And there's the village.
Exactly. And it just it seems like a better way to be in society, Johnny J says this is why it is so vital to be around those who see the best in you and speak on that. Surround yourselves with people of a different chemical makeup that is more in tune with who you want to be. Absolutely.
Yep.
You don't want to sit around. If you can sit back, look around, and see that the majority of people that you hang out with are like just like you, on your level or beneath your level, that might be a problem depending upon where you are versus where you want to go. So that's definitely some powerful stuff to think about. She also says the village that raises the child might be emotionally stable and in tune with who they are. So not every village is capable of said raising of a child. So maybe she meant the village that raises the child, okay, must be emotionally stable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that when you start talking back, way back when, or you start talking, in our original culture, then, you had emotional stability because, again, we were eating the right foods, everything about society was all focused on this enlarged family, and so you didn't have as much chemical imbalance in the brain because we weren't eating these poor food choices, right? So that played a big part just the same.
At the same time, what we did not have is television. We did not have the
television programming.
Right, we did not have the programming with the music and the on the airwaves and being controlled, right? And so that piece wasn't present. And so we have now today we have role switching, and so here we are talking about men's emotions. Now we're in a society where it's the roles is switched. And then when you talk about village, what village will allow a boy to say he's a girl? So this what we're living in now. There's a lot of stress on just trying to make it. Bills are high. Just regular paying bills are expensive. And it's why it pushes us to a two-parent household if one person can't make enough, right? Then you got everything else that you're dealing with when it comes to just having a family. So it becomes a very stressful moment. And then there's the emotion. And again, someone that's out of control that is killing someone or doing whatever out here is because they lack control. So there are. I believe that we're living in a society where we're being controlled because we're being distracted. And based upon that is the reason why we in this condition that we're in now. Because if we're talking about we can control our lives and we can move any obstacle out of our way and get what we want in life, then what's stopping us? The only thing can be is the distractions. If we're not finding that ability to where we can change our diets or increase a better income, there's something distracting us then. So it's either two things: either we're too weak to make things happen, or the system is too strong.
And man, the idea of the system being too strong is scary as hell.
Right. Then we might as well throw out the door everything we spoke about over the years about being able to project and master your future. You might as well throw everything out the door that you can change your life, because why? We're going to point the finger at society. The white man built this. The white man's over there doing that. So I can't get better. I can't. The white man's got the lock. He's got the lockdown on the jobs. I can't get a good job. Then we might as well just give up and just say, well, F it. Everything that we've been discussing about manifestation and going after what you want and let nothing stop you to achieve these goals. If that's the case. So it's either two things: either they got control, or you got control. Which is it?
Exactly. And if you're not where you want to be and you believe you have control, then there's some things you got to change.
Correct. And I think that's a good piece right there, Joe, is what's the solution, particularly for men and they're being able to balance that emotion. Now, again, we're talking about men that probably didn't grow up with a man. Number one, I don't know in my years of being around men that the men that grew up with fathers carry themselves differently. Like I said, when you look at that scenario, so it's a different behavior and a different mindset of a man that had a father opposed to a man that didn't have a father and is kind of seeking. I got people working for me. I've had people working for me over years, and young men coming into my space, and I can tell if they did or did not have a father in their presence. And I would say when they came into our presence here at my facility, not only was they doing work and learning how to make money, but they were also learning how to handle themselves as men with women. In relationship with women, and I knew that they were learning something that was going to help them out for the rest of their life, But that takes that ability, because again, the biggest problem with our young men today is they did not have fathers to raise them. And if you ask most of the young men in prison today, in and out of prison, they didn't have daddies. There's a whole statistics on that. Of what's going on there with the fathers being absent, and while the women still having babies by the men who are absent, it's kind of puzzling to me. But nevertheless, these young boys are raised by women with no man in the house, and they're growing up emotional, and that's why they out here snapping out on other people.
And even having a father, I met someone recently who they spoke about their father being in the home, but their father not being emotionally available.
Now that piece. Yeah.
So it was like father was there
Now
physically.
when we
But
say emotionally available, I wonder what does that mean? Emotionally available.
as this person described it, it was a matter. It was a matter of just being there. They could go to their father and ask for things, and their father would do it. But there wasn't much of a push from the father to there wasn't the nurturing or not nurturing, but there wasn't the cheerlead, there wasn't the attachment of hey, you should do things this way. There wasn't it was as if by their description, their father had a lot going on in their own mind, and was busy dealing with that, almost as if the father was mentally incapable of being what they wanted, I guess. I don't know.
Well, but that's kind of a mix. That's kind of a mixed bag here. And here we have a grown person, probably an adult, and trying to find the past fault. Well, why? But if they had a father and the father was home, and he was taking care of the family, what more do you want him to do for you? You get your emotion from your mama, but don't grow up don't become an adult and then say that, because then what happens is that now you are a victim. And so no matter how you was raised, doesn't give you the excuse to act buffoonery or act less than what you should try to be. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, you don't grow up, you don't grow up to become an adult, and you grow up and didn't hear any right information or any right guidance. No matter who you are, there's somebody told you how to act right. There's somebody told you what to do and what not to do. You just probably didn't want to pay attention to it. And this is when we get into the blame, because no matter how you were raised with your parents, you can change that whole dynamics by studying about yourself, studying another family. Because if we do that, then we stuck, because we continue to point the finger at something in the past, whether it is our mother, or whether it is our father that mistreated us. If you was raised and you was molested, you don't have to stay in that. You don't have to stay in that victimization. You can change, right? You ain't got to turn around and you molest children and turn around and say, well, I was molested because my father molested me. You can change that, right? So that's the piece where we got to get to, is where the individual can say, hey, this is what I was dealt, and this is what I need to change about myself. And that's just that simple. We just can't soak in the victimization and just say, well, I was raised this way, this is all I know. Not when someone else pointed another direction to you. You can't stay there.
Yeah. Interesting. This was another comment I like. This here, they were in tune with who they were during that time. We are coming to a time when we are waking up to who we are so that we can restore our family units. And I think that's important, because, again, everybody can't go, but there are plenty people who are waking up to the understanding that, hey, we got to get back to family. We got to get back to creating these family units, because that's, as we would say on the Truth Be Told show, that's the power base, is the family unit. However that works and comes together, nonetheless, that's the power base there. Let's see. So Johnny J says, funny, the creator of Netflix grandfather was also the creator of propaganda. So yeah, TV is dangerous and is a cause of many emotional imbalances. Couple that with food, couple that with music, couple that with things. It seems like a sliding
Couple that
scale.
with drugs, the marijuana that's out here
Absolutely.
today on the streets. Couple that with alcohol, and yes, all of
you
that.
just got that terminal mixed bag. You got another mixed bag right there. This is deep, and for women to experience this plays a role in how we have stepped into our masculinity, and it's disturbing to me. Absolutely. It plays a role as to how men have stepped into their femininity more than they should versus how women have stepped into masculinity more than they should. Hence the role reversal here. I think we are expecting the wrong things from our men, and we have to reevaluate our relationships. Absolutely. Are they meant to last forever, or are they supposed to evolve? The relationships, I believe. Interesting. I would say that they should evolve, right? Johnny J says, I agree with you, Akasha Rise. Expectation creates illusion. If a woman is still in the state of expectation from men, she will forever be confused as to who she is and her power. But what part of that expectation, there should be some expectations from a woman to a man that she is in a relationship, right? Right? I mean, she should expect him to get things done as we spoke earlier, correct?
Correct. Well, expectation is very important. It can be an illusion to have expectations on someone that does not show that characteristic in the first place. So you first have expectations on yourself, how you want someone to treat you, how you want someone to comment you. Those expectations will vibrate that type of frequency, and that person will come that would treat you like that and be that way to you. So sometimes expectations could be a downfall when we start having expectation that person never showed that characteristics, right? And so you expect that to be forever. And there is now what you will consider a flaw if that expectation isn't met. But is it you or is it them? So if it's you having an expectation that's beyond them, then it's you. You see, but if it's you having an expectation on yourself and they come into the picture showing those characteristics, then that's how it works. But you can't have expectations on something or someone that never showed those characteristics in the first place.
Absolutely. And kind of what you were saying a second ago reminds me of a little bit about what you were talking about this past Tuesday on the Truth Be Told show, in how we cultivate the women, the girls in our society, especially within our community, helping to help get the men straight. I think that's important, and it doesn't mean that we're not focused on getting the men straight just the same. That's something that will happen, but men tend to acquiesce to the demands of women. If women's demands are of a low vibration to the point to where a man can walk around with his booty and drawers showing because he's sagging and still get what he wants from a woman, then what heights does he have to reach for?
Good point.
If he can still get that, right?
Yeah.
So if we can cultivate the girls, the women right now that are coming up, and create better versions of them, those that have respect for themselves, that will not allow, those that will look at a man with his fake diamonds and chains or whatever the case, wads of money and this, that, and the other, and say, what are you doing? Who are you trying to impress? What is that for? You know what I mean? Women that look at that and don't get aroused and turned on by nonsensical things like that. If we can create a society of women like that and get back to the idea of respect, I was understanding of the Malcolm X days, zoot suits. Back then, guys were flocking towards the white woman, right? But the only reason was because white women were more loose, and they could get what men typically go for, which was sex, they could get that from the white women, whereas black women had much more respect for themselves. The melanated woman had way more respect for themselves, so they were not giving it up as such, or giving it up as much. Therefore, it was kind of natural of, for as society was failing and falling, then the men were, going towards the white woman. It was like, a prize that they had on their arm, just the same. And so that's interesting.
Well, let me interject on that. There's two reasons why that took place. One is, if you deny people something for so long, they become delusional, thinking that what they were denied from is better. And so as soon as integration happened, some black men who had a little wealth went and got them a white woman. But you're right in a sense, because there were white women were chasing black men, and it made it easier for him to get her in bed, opposed to having to wine and dine this other woman. But that did play a role in how men crossed over, because the white man would have knocked his eye out before then if he even looked at a white woman. And so this is how we do. This is when integration happened. Integration happened. Instead of the black man being denied to go to the white dentist, he had to go to the black dentist. When integration happened, he thought the white dentist, his ice was colder, you see, than the black ice. So because they had the better tools and shit. So when integration happened, he couldn't wait to take his money and go to the white dentist to get his teeth cleaned. See, so sometimes you deny a person of something, they fall under the illusion that is best than what they have. And so that played a role back then. But you're right, in a sense, white women were chasing black men even then, when he couldn't even look at the white woman.
Absolutely. I'm trying to figure out what link Johnny J is speaking about. If there was a link sent somewhere that I don't know. But let me know what that link is, Johnny J. But Akasha Rise, she says, I also think we have to reevaluate who or what a father figure is. I've seen way too many instances, myself included, where the biological man is not the father figure in their life. And I feel like going back to the idea of the village, in a sense, kind of helps with that, right? Because if there is men in the village for that person to look up to, or men within your community, men within the different organizations that you go to day to day, that can be father figures for. And that's another thing too, is when you go back to what you said earlier about playing victim. There's many. Well, I didn't have, my son's father wasn't in his life. Well, go get one. Go get a father figure. Stop. Again, that goes back to playing the victim and saying, well, I don't go to church, so I can't, I ain't no man there. Listen, it's guys on your job, this, that. But, we live in a society where nobody don't want to know nobody. People don't want to know their neighbor. They don't want to know, they're so scared to get close to anybody or understand anybody.
And also the picking is slim. The proper picking for a good man is slim today. That's trying to find a needle in the haystack today to find you a good man that's going to provide for you. That's hard today. It may have been easier yesterday, back in the day, but today it's hard, and a lot of women find themselves being used and over and over again by different men, mainly because her choice of trying to be loved and have that opposite sex, but inside of a pool of a bunch of bad character men.
Yeah, nah, you're right. And that plays a very big part. I seen a young lady post on Facebook, and she's a business professional herself. So a lot of the people who are friends with her on her social media platforms are business professionals also. And I seen her post saying, my son needs a mentor really bad. If anyone is interested, please hit me up. Right. So, she was able to, in a sense, pick from, men who showed that interest to say, hey, I'm interested in helping any way I can. I do this as a profession. Maybe your son can come and help me. These were the type of comments that she was getting on that post. And I think that's important. So I think it's the ability to sit back and say, hey, by any means necessary, I have to focus on, like a mother with a son saying, I have to focus on getting a man in this boy's life. He needs some type of figure to look up to. And then, we talked about on my relationship show Wednesday, how some people say, oh, they were healing themselves for the last year or whatever, and what he'll say is, in a lot of cases, what people do as they were healing themselves, they just weren't dating. So they weren't even trying. They weren't even going up to bat, to even find a relationship, to even put themselves in the space to potentially be looked at by anyone. Therefore, you talk about not finding someone or having someone for your kids, but you can't find a good man. Well, you're not even trying. That plays on both parts, right?
And that could be because she's still healing and hasn't
Exactly.
finished healing yet, and she should heal no matter how long it takes before she jump into a relationship with someone else, and then put all that negative energy
trauma,
and that trauma on him in that relationship. Correct.
Yeah. So, Johnny J, that was deep. I believe all of this begins with the women in our communities remembering who we are and our place in our families. I would love to connect you and share. Good stuff. Ladies reaching out. That's what I'm talking about. I'm in a state of consciousness. I expect nothing from anybody but myself. That frequency will create my reality of what I choose to see. Non-expectation creates more possibilities in the universe. Absolutely. My dad talks a lot about going with the flow of things in certain ways. But interesting stuff there. He hit the nail right on the head. The women set the standard for the people. That's why I say the problem and the solution lies with the woman. I wouldn't mind playing a little excerpt from this past Tuesday's show where you were speaking on that.
And it's very interesting when she made that statement. Too many women like that statement, that the problem lies in the lap of the woman, because we have said that before in a sense when we're talking about actually, and when I say this, when I say women need to stay in a place, I know some women be like, oh, they squinch when they hear that, right? But actually, if you stay in your place, you actually rule the masculine men. Feminine power rules masculine power. It's just that simple. And so if you remain in your power, you will rule. And this is why we were talking about, if women had a certain behavior of how she carried herself, men will follow. If it's just the same as women cooking. If your husband has got diabetic, you ain't cooking right. If your husband, your family is fat, overweight, and you ain't cooking right, so you're the nurturer. So guess what? I've met women who said they were vegans or whatever, and said that they told their husband they won't cooking no more meat anymore. And their husband, you know what he did? He followed. And now he's healthy as hell, right? So the point is that if she leads, he'll follow. He will do whatever. If you're the prize, he gonna do whatever he's got to do to get you. But don't be easy. Make it hard for him, and you'll win.
Man, I can remember being 19 and just seeing this woman at my job that was, she was amazing. I mean, she had a glow about her. Like, she walked and it was as if there was a glow, like an angelic glow around her, right? And, I stepped to her and I tell you what, it wasn't the traditional response, but I could tell right off the bat as to how she carried herself that she wasn't the traditional woman. Man, I stepped my game way up in order to, because I felt like I was here. I stepped up in order to get here, and was able to get a date and become great friends and move forward. But it's just, I think that's important.
A woman can make a man get his GED and go to school. I've seen a brother who said he walked up on a sister and found out that she was educated and this and that. He wanted her bad, and he said the first thing she came out her mouth is, "Where you plan to be in 5 years?" And he couldn't explain it. She said, "Come write it down. Go write down your 5-year plan and come back to me." Yep, he sure did. He wrote down his 5-year plan and he went back. See, that's what I mean. If he really wants you, he'll jump through hoops to get you. But you can't give him the panties easy. You can't make it easy for him, because if you make it easy for him, he won't respect you in the end. Gotta make him work for it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think that's important. I was getting mixed up here because I was trying to listen to this past Tuesday show to find an excerpt, and I thought that was still you talking. But interesting, when you talk about that, and Johnny J says she agreed with some earlier stuff. I've noticed that as far as creating my own reality, it's like I have expectations and I hold on too tight to them. It can block or slow down the manifestation. Absolutely. And I like what she said, the problem and the solution lies with the women. When you really think about that, women are the givers of life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So they start life. And I feel like there's some type of tie within the idea of the problem and solution lying within women, not as a negative thing, but as an understanding of the power that a woman brings.
This is why it's so important for men to be in their daughter's life, to protect them, because they're so precious. You gotta protect the girls, man. It's so important.
Man, I had a recent experience, bro. We'll get out of here shortly, but I had a recent experience of meeting a boyfriend of my daughter. It was interesting. We were at a park, an amusement park that she works at, and she essentially brought the young man over when we were sitting down watching a outside theater show, and she brought the young man over. They sat behind me, and when the show was over, I turned around and stood up, and he stood up at the same time. He reached his hand out and he said, "Hey, how you doing there, sir?" And I shook his hand, and he hung with us for the rest of the evening. So I had a chance to really kind of sit and watch him, and watch his mannerisms and things of that nature, and came to a conclusion of him being a good guy, and this being such a new friendship of theirs. Then it didn't. I don't think it requires just yet the man talk, but I had pulled my daughter to the side at one point, and I said, "Listen, I know I joke earlier when I text you, and was talking stuff about, I joked and said something about, daddy keeps 40 caliber on him at all times. But with that in mind, I said, listen, you let any guy that comes into your, close circle like this know about your father. I said, you do that and you will always be protected, because when they know that your father is in your life and such, then I feel like that can help to ward off some BS along the way. And it's just interesting when you start talking about that. Akasha Rai says, wow, you are the first man I've heard that from as far as a women's place. When I say that, the men took it the wrong way and thought I was trying to emasculate them, but it was the opposite. I think she's referring to my comment earlier about the women, the power that they bring to the table. So and I think that's important, because again, from your daughters, staying in your daughters' lives, and again with what Leonard said, I think it's important being able to switch off that emotional or switch it on when you need to, when it's in its proper place. So being, I mean, you raised your daughter, you know what I mean, and you've spoken about that so much. There has to be some certain level of emotion that you had to tap into in order to do that. But at the same time, what I think is so powerful is that you said you went and found women, good quality women, to be in her circle as well. And so I think that's just so powerful.
That's important because I can't teach her how to be a woman. I can only
Exactly.
be in the capacity that I am as a father to her. And so that played the role. She had the quality father, but needed that other half to help her develop that piece in her. And so I knew that. I started studying books about raising children. One of the greatest books that I think I came across was John Amos, the psychological development of Black children. And it just kind of told me the emotion, because I'm standing in one shoes and my feelings, but I have to look at her from her feelings in her shoes because she's different. So I had to learn a whole different dynamics of emotions that was coming from my daughter, and how I couldn't just shut that off because I'm a man, right? So I had to kind of like, it's almost like a woman says she's raising a boy by herself. She had to kind of like step in a little masculine role and jump in that little boy's face and say, sit your little ass down,
Yeah, exactly.
Opposed to having the ability to say, I'm gonna tell your daddy on you when you get home, and he straightens up. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
She has to do it because there ain't no daddy around.
Exactly. Even when my kids were younger, and there's parts of that was interesting. But even when my kids were younger, as even though me and my ex-wife were separated, divorced, or what have you, it was always I'm gonna tell your dad, or pick up the phone, make a call, and say, listen, we're having a problem here with uh, the son, and I want, can you talk to him, please? And so I get him to explain things to me as to what's going on, and I talk to him in that sense. And then there was a certain point of him straightening out, or my daughter just the same. So it's important to know and understand that when you're, if you in raising your daughter could only tap into an emotional side, but so much, and know that, what, a woman can go further than what I can go. It's important to move your ego to the side so that you can understand those things. And that was the importance here with this, with what Akasha said. Wow, you are the first man. She said, when I say that, when she was talking about the women, the problem lies and starts and finishes with the women, then she got a pushback from men whose ego was in the way.
Correct. And so she's referring to, when I was saying that it's actually the woman's power, the feminine power rules the masculine power if you stay in your place. It is. I give you an example. It's very interesting. So and this is a scenario probably everybody have probably experienced. The little girl does something, and the mama says, "I'm gonna tell your daddy on you when he get home." And the little girl, you know how she is. The little girl, she's kind of scared. Oh yeah, she stopped doing it because daddy's coming home. Well, when my daddy do come home, how does she act? Hi, daddy. He can be mad as hell. He's pissed off what she did. Hi, daddy. And then she weakens him, and there he goes. Because that rules. If the woman uses her little masculine energy and size up to her man, jump in his face because he came home with an attitude, and she jumps in his face, that makes him, because you attach his ego, it makes him go higher. So now you got two masculine energies, man and woman, are fighting each other. Instead of the woman bringing it down and just hugging him or something, his masculine energy will go away and you are in control. But if you are egoic, like he's egoic, because women, remember now, women are driven by emotion, men are driven by ego. It's just that simple. It doesn't mean men don't have emotion, and it doesn't mean women don't have ego, but it's a little bit. Women have this much ego, that much emotion. Men have this much emotion, that much ego. And we must understand our place. And that's the balance, right? That's the yin and yang. And that's the balance. We must understand our place in order for this to work. Because no woman wants a man that's feminine. She don't want a man that's just as feminine as she is, and no man wants a woman that's just as masculine as he is. Raise your hand if you want a masculine ass woman thinking like you. Hell no. Why? And no woman again will want a man thinking like a woman. So we got to have this balance, and we got to understand there's a balance here, and how we bring that piece together. But again, this is about men's emotions and how we get to this position to where is men showing their emotion, is that something that makes him look weak to you women? Like Heather said, after so long, you better straighten your ass up, because you're going to start looking like a little girl to your woman. You keep that whining, and that's just a fact. And so, how do we balance that?
Yeah. Well, I think, just to get solution driven as we close out the show. Like you said earlier, yes, men have emotions, but let's just be real. All that crying and whining and BS, there comes to a point where you have to learn how, like you said, to work through it. And these are tools and things that can fortunately come from other men, which you said plenty of times. It's important that when women go to choose a man, one of the things they should look for is who is his mentors,
right?
Who is he looking up to? So if you yourself, and this is where you dig deep and look at yourself, if you yourself feel that you are not where you need to be emotionally, if you can look at yourself, I mean, I hear about a fight of a man and woman, and the man gets mad at the woman and goes and breaks the child's TV because he's mad at the woman. The woman that broke his TV that he bought, and then the man goes and breaks the child's TV because he's so emotional. If you can look at yourself and say, you know what, that ain't cool, and you got to be able to be honest with yourself, then you know what, you should be going out to seek some type of mentorship guidance from some man. If you are a man who can look and see that your emotions are unchecked out here, I think that's important.
Absolutely.
You've got to get out there and do that, because man, I've had situations where I've been in where other people and their emotions would not be able to be in that same situation. They will fly off the handle,
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you the same thing. Y'all seen when I went live, was sitting there with the police officer. I could have got aggressive and all this other stuff. Why you asking me to get out the car? Why I need to come sit back there with you? Blah blah. Why? Why? But what's the point though? Hey, if I can sit down, have a good conversation with this guy and allow and humanize myself and allow him to see me just like him, guess what? We're going to have a great time, which we did. And I'm going to go on about my merry way. We ain't going to sit there and wait for 10 other cop cars to show up and dogs and all this other stuff just for me to end up on some BS sitting there for hours on the side of the road in handcuffs. No, for nothing. I've shared having no father with men from a space of comfort and had that used against me, which is now why I have to have a healthy balance of masculine and feminine, because it is damaging. Absolutely.
Yep.
Women who grew up with no father with no father's desire, home, and comfort with men, but the damage of being used from men playing off that creates horrible psychological effects. Awareness is key. Awareness of self is key always.
And what that means is that, and if that's easy to be done because we're still not healing, that means that because it goes back to self, you have to first go through the healing process. And this is something we get in relationships without healing from something that's coming from the past. And you don't realize you need to heal, and maybe until you get into a relationship and realize the trauma that's going on. And instead of looking at self, we look at others. Because if we look at self, that's the shadow work. That means, oh, I need to heal. I might not need to be with that person anyway, but if I heal, I will bring in the one that I'm supposed to be with. And that becomes the balance. But again, it is still, regardless of not having a father, it's still the work the individual need to do themselves if they realize that they have that fatherless issue within themselves, and that's a problem. If you know it's a problem, then you don't step into a relationship expecting looking for the expectations of him to replace your father. See that piece? It does replace the father that you didn't have, and then that expectation now starts to become sour and toxic, because that relationship is now toxic, because the individual went in looking for maybe the absent father figure and found nothing like that, because that individual haven't healed. See, if you heal, you wouldn't go looking for a father in a relationship with the man. You have healed. But if you haven't healed, then you are searching for that absent piece that you didn't get when you was a child. And that piece right there always get women in trouble. They're looking for that missing father and find themselves under sexual agreement with just having sex, because he ain't caring about you like that, like the daddy thing. And then you realize, oh, this was just about sex. It wasn't about really taking care of me, because again, your expectation was father figure, and that ain't what you got. And so somehow we got to look at that balance of what is needed, and a lot of times it's the healing. Because here's the thing: the person that came into your life, the person that would have came into a woman's life that brought the problem that she had, guess what? He hasn't healed either. So how did the two individuals magnetically attracted to each other when they both actually needed to heal before they came together? See how it works? So we really don't point the finger outward, we point the finger inward, because even that person is dealing with their own issues.
Absolutely. And something you said was key as well. And then I want to jump into this comment as well. But you said if a person realizes that their lack is a problem, and that is that we live in a society today where people glorify and perpetuate, women with masculine energy. I don't need a man, this, that, and the other. They glorify that, perpetuate, which continues to perpetuate the problem. And here we are. Your energy, you're gonna attract the same bullshit type of people with the same bullshit type of thought process. So when you out there doing the most, doing the worst, talking the worst, all these people around you that you've now vibrated towards you are glorifying it right along with you, as opposed to telling you, hey sis, nah, that's not cool. All right, that's not it. That's nah. I can already tell you what your future gonna look like. You know what I mean? And you're going to be crying later on about it. So, it's interesting that, like I said, everybody can't go.
Everybody can't go.
Absolutely. Some of us is going to get left the fuck behind because, we just cannot. It's just not going to happen. Some of y'all succumb to the media ploy, the radio, the music ploy, and all of that stuff. Misha said fostering and nurturing are not the same equivalent communicating in the home. And Johnny J says I agree with that. The real victims are the kids who have to grow up and be raised by people with no true value of self nor understanding of their ability to be more than what they currently see. Protect the babies.
Protect.
Absolutely. And that's what it all boils down to, folks. It's about these kids, man. We the only reason why we got here is because we didn't do that. We didn't protect the babies before, so we got here. I truly believe women need to be celibate until they have healed their DNA and are able to be in tune with every part of themselves. This will end victimhood and wrong choices. And some people, I think some people look at stuff like that and it's above their head, and they say, I don't know how to do that. Guess what? You have no excuse in this day and age, because Google is a mug.
Sure
all right. All you got to do is Google, and you will find things. You YouTube it, you will find the books on YouTube to listen to and watch if you want to, instead of watching the BS and listening to the BS that you do. You have no excuse in this day and age anymore. With that being said, folks, we're gonna close out the show here. Practice love and only seeing the best in every outcome, and watch how life opens up. That is great. My dad said, him and my stepmother, they, if you look in their driveway in Florida, it's like 3 or 4, and they all cars in the driveway. They're all luxury cars. My dad said, look, I never sought after that stuff. I just focused on exuding love and being happy. That's what I focused on. And all of those other things came. They were a byproduct of this main product that I was going after, which was happiness and love, and the rest of it came. So that's so important when you really think about it on a day-to-day basis, folks. And I hope everybody got something out of this, because I definitely see plenty from Michon. Shout out to Michon. Shout out Akasha Rai. Shout out Johnny J. Shout out Health Daddy Wow. Good stuff. I'm gonna close out the show with a little excerpt from this past Tuesday's Truth Be Told show.
Let me before you do, I gotta get ready to roll. I got somebody's waiting. So real quick before we close out, we're talking about this discussion is talking about the emotion of men. And so I want to just lay out some things for men to listen to or to just consider in this endeavor about being, because I have a different opinion of what men, because I'm a man, right? Last time I checked. And so I have a different view, and only my lens is not the lens for every man. Absolutely not, And so I have to say, every man can't wear every other man's shoes. There are different types of men out here on so many different levels now that it's ridiculous. So, I always say is the main thing is take control of your emotions. The number one thing you need to do as a man, now that you are an adult, take control of your emotions. Another one is go hard on whatever it is you do in life. Go hard for it. Really go after it really, really hard. And just like they say, no pain, no gain. Go after what you want and go after it very, very hard. In order to be great, it takes time. No matter what it is you want to be great at, it's going to take time. Always work on yourself to improve yourself. Always look in the mirror and ask yourself, how can you be a better man tomorrow? Always look at yourself and ask that question. Stop trying to impress other men. Oh my God. Stop trying to impress other men. And I think that piece right there, if you go inside yourself, you have nothing to prove to no one. Who you are becomes who you are, and you will attract those that like you just the way you are. Here's the thing. Being yourself is important, because if you're not yourself, how's someone else going to find you? If you're not yourself, right? Get structure in your life. Get some type of structure. Successful people have structure in their life. They have a regiment. May wake up every morning, work out, get a structure, get something, and don't try to just go after everything that comes your way. Fix something, stay focused on something that you can work on that for your achievement. It's very important for you to have. And the other piece is the loudest man in the room is the weakest. Understand that. And what I mean loud, not only loud by mouth, loud by jewelry, showing off his stuff, loud clothes, anything to draw attention. He's the weakest one in the link. So understand that piece too. So in men, you should understand your journey of who you are, realizing this. Make no excuses for your life. Make none. Make no excuses. Challenge all your fears. Challenge them. Don't let your fears just set in you and work you. Challenge those fears to overcome them. It will make you a better man. Look for challenges. Don't be the man that sits on the fucking couch and don't want to be challenged. Always challenge and want to be challenged. And most important, challenge yourself by looking in the mirror, and always think objectively. Never believe in everything you hear and half the things you see. So always think objectively. It'll help you have more guidance in where you're going in life. And lastly, there are three characteristics that men have that women are naturally looking for. And that is, the three characteristics is: one, you must be able to survive. What good are you if you can't survive? Secondly, you must be able to provide. One of the greatest, healthiest ways to solve or to feed your ego is create a family and feed that family. If that don't make you feel good, you're lacking the ability of being a man, right? So providing. The second most important thing about being a man is being willing to serve, which is providing. Thirdly, you must have guidance. What good of you if you ain't got guidance? What good of you if you don't set up under elder people to learn so that you can have guidance for those can set up under you and you can teach, right? Don't your child want to come to you and say, hey, give me some help or show me the way? And you have struggled and been through this. Is why struggling is good for you, because you learn to struggle in order to teach. It's very interesting about ego. I love the story of ego. You know, I love the animal life. Egos have an interesting way of how they live. Uh, the ego, when it gets to a certain age, in its 40s or 50s, it gets old, its beak gets weak, and its claws begin to fall off. Its feathers get heavy. So the ego flies to the highest mountain that it can find. And, you know, ego is the king of all birds. It can fly that high. It go to the highest mountain. The first thing the ego does, it starts clawing off. It starts picking out its feathers, the bad feathers, picking them all out. Second thing the ego does is take out its claws, pull them out, get them snatched out. The third thing the ego does is knock off its beak. It takes a rock and it actually knocks the beak. Everything grows back. That is called two things you have here. When you get to a certain age, you got two options. Either you die or you go through a painful rebirth. And the ego at 50 goes through a painful rebirth. And then when it does that, it's all new again. And it's back to hunting. It's back to doing its natural abilities, right? So understand that life ain't going to be easy for you. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to build character. And building character is very important, because there's those that's going to come after you want to learn your character of how you survive that world that you lived in. And that's very important, that we pass down to our children what we learned, how we learned it, and how we got through it. So understand those traits as you are walking in the steps or in the footprint of a man.
Initiative. Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. That, you know, the stuff that we speak on is just so powerful. You sent me something, and I shared it with everybody. 11 laws of human nature.
11 laws of human nature
to understand.
Yeah.
You know, I listen. I'm a man. I get emotional at the thought that you know, you've been placed in my life, brother. You know, you send me things like this. We've been doing this for, you know, over a year, you know, a couple years now that we've known each other. And bruh, the things that, you know, I love when you send, because you don't just sit back, take stuff that you learn, harbor it among yourself, and then go out and teach it, which in a sense just to flaunt you up. Nah, you're like, you're teaching it and you're sharing it just the same. Any one person has the potential to gain as much or more knowledge because you are, as you get it, you learn it, you pass it on, and that's dope. And I appreciate that. Absolutely. This right here, I was listening to this morning before the show, and it's absolutely powerful. So folks, if you want to connect with us, honestly, if you just go to social media from Instagram to Facebook and you do a hashtag search, if you go into search and you hashtag John Yah, JOHNYAH, you will find us there from Instagram to Facebook. If you hashtag Mr. Just Ask Joe, you can do the same. And we will immediately pop up when you do that. But just the same, you've got esoteric concepts. You look that up, and if that's okay.
Yep, Esoteric Concept on Facebook. Esoteric Concept with John Yah on YouTube. But you can find me on Facebook, just Esoteric Concept. That is my tag name.
But whenever I put out a description of the show or put the flyer out, when I type the description, I always hashtag John Yah and hashtag Mr. Just Ask Joe. And the reason for that is because even if you go to Google right now and you type those hashtags in, it will pull up our social media stuff right away. So you want to connect and rap talk, we're always open to people doing that. You can also hit up the Tipping Point Show at gmail.com, and remember the tippingpointshow.com as well. And as you see the intro and outro for the show, then remember, we are always on all social media platforms where you can come and re-listen to the show just the same. And we appreciate all support. Please subscribe to our YouTube page, the Tipping Point Show, there as well. So we appreciate you. Link up with us, folks. We wanna connect, bond, and spread more love, more good energy, more positivity to the world. So hey, until next time, brother.
Peace, man.
Hey, peace. Like I said, y'all, I'm gonna play us out with some excerpt from this past week's Truth Be Told show where John Yah spoke. And we'll see y'all next week, same place, same time, 6 a.m. PST time and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.
Yo, peace, brother.
All right. Yeah. So let's let my brother, he's patiently listening in on this conversation, and I feel like if we was to look inside of his head, we would see a whole bunch of people tapping on computers and stuff like that. If you looked inside of his head, man, and they formulating some amazing stuff right now. So John, take it away, bro.
Hey, peace, everyone. Thanks for allowing me on this subject here. It's a great subject. I don't know what I could add after what Miss Moore just got finished explaining, because there are so many different layers to this issue here. So many different layers, and I don't know where to start other than you were doing the finger pointing is one thing, and saying what the problem, what caused the problem, and now we're talking about what is the problem, but now how do we get to the solution to get rid of the problem is the issue. And I think there's layers, and I'm not sure. I don't buy the that the white man planned this. I don't buy that. I don't think he's that smart. I just think circumstances happen for many reasons. And if you take back, I heard somebody mention back in the day. There were men walking away from their family. And the reason that they were walking away from their family back then is because they couldn't provide. They didn't have jobs, and they felt ashamed of themselves. So you know this yourself, Mishan. Back in those days, it was a little different. Men was different then than they are today. These men today, back then, men were seeking marriage because marriage was a part of the symbol of manhood. It was a part of, if you have a family and you took care of your family, that was the symbol of a manhood. This is my wife, these are my children. That's what we connected. And you determine your manhood based on your family. What your family thinks of you is attached to your manhood, not someone else. So ask your children, who are you, and they will describe your manhood. We don't have that today. This is what we had back.
Amen, John.
I grew up, men were different. Women were different. Women knew their place. And when I make that statement, don't take that statement offensive, because men knew their place too. Men wouldn't run around trying to be women. Women wouldn't run around trying to be men. There weren't no masculinity for women back then in this sense. Women weren't tattooing up their bodies and trying to look hard and strong and jumping in men's face back then. No, women were soft. The women I grew up with, my mama, I grew up in the 60s, they were soft women. Because women understood that feminine power is more dominant than the masculine power, because that's where the men will wind down to his woman. Now, keep in mind that back then you had alcohol problems, you had other problems, you had other abuse, substance abuse problems for men, because we was just still trying to find ourselves, even after the Jim Crow and after all the other stigmas that happened to us as a people. Now, when it came to giving women welfare, or when it came to that welfare system, now I thought that was, I didn't see nothing wrong with that as I read back and look at how the system worked for poor people in this country who could not afford to make ends meet, opposed to other countries where other countries didn't have no system to pay you nothing, absolutely nothing. But back then, the men will walk away because of their shame, and they felt that the woman or his wife could do better without them. Now, I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying whatever's in his head was in his head. But it was a different mindset. Men wouldn't run around getting women pregnant if he didn't have a plan. Today's men run around just want to get women pregnant as though that's attached to their manhood. Look how many kids I got. It's another issue of trying to be hard and strong. I've been in a gang, I've been to prison. We attached our manhood to that. Now you got men walking around with their pants down, and we somehow attach that manhood to that. So we got this whole thing backwards. We also got it backwards of how women chooses men to be with before she allow her legs to be opened up. One of the things the sister says is very important is the value system. What values do we carry? Now, this white man is not that intelligent. The question is, how do we fall into that lower value just because he spreaded some money to us? Yes, women can get upset if that brother walks away. Yes, if that brother acts as though he's turning away from her and the kids. Of course, that has happened. And of course, women had to figure out a way to make it. The black women had to figure out a way to make it, whether she was going to go to school, whatever. And why should she have a man in that house that ain't doing nothing, ain't paying them? That's one issue. However, the other issue is that, like she said, being in an abusive relationship, because when a man has that dominant, my pocket is bigger, you have to deal with me. There's an abuse that can come with that she can go under. I can tell you many times of women back then accepted the abuse of men because they had nowhere else to go. And soon as the government or whatever said, hey, we'll give you a job, she had every reason now to leave that abusive relationship. There's nothing wrong with that. I find nothing wrong with the word independent woman, unless that definition means independent from me, because the women that I'm with are independent. And what does that mean? What that means is they're independent from economics, not independent from me per se. Now, my manhood and who I am as a man is still attached because that's what they need. My protection, my presence, because in a sense, if I was to die, if she is not capable of being independent economically, then guess what happens? She's gonna go around look for a man. So I done built wealth, I done built an economic system. He can handle it because she don't know how to be independent. What man doesn't want a woman that can survive? Raise your hand if you don't want a woman that's not educated, that can't survive out here without you. Okay, every man should want a woman, but you don't want a woman who thinks that her ability to be independent means absent you. There's a difference. So who put that in her head? I'm not sure, but I'm sure it wasn't the white man, because I never saw the white man say, hey, you kick out the man, I'll give you this job. Like, We know that back then women were given better jobs than men. But where did she get to the point to where she thought she was better than him? Where did that come from? I know plenty of women that making the money, they ain't kick their man out. And I know men right now, the roles have changed. He takes care of the children while she makes all the money. And they're getting along just fine. Somehow something creeped into our brains and our mindset to how we look at each other. And I think that's the piece, how we blame each other and point the finger at each other. Because at the same time, we can point the finger at women. Because I can say that these young boys today that are killing each other, if you look at them, they were raised by single households, by women, right?
Yes.
Because they do not understand the manhood piece. But if I sit there and point the finger at women is the problem, then I say, well, where's the man? Because that same woman that didn't know, that chose the wrong man, she didn't have a father to know how to choose a man. So she didn't have what was called a measuring stick to what a man. He was absent. And so then you got these niggas running around her who didn't have a father, who did not, they did not see a relationship between mother and father and how they get along. And maybe, just maybe somehow these young boys grew up with a disrespect of watching their mama with different men that can have an effect on them. And then he goes out and mistreat the same woman that looks like him and looks like his mom. Right. So we're talking about a situation that's going to continue to go over and over again until we do one thing that this sister mentioned. Unless we raise our value of who we are, independent value. And I'll say this, if the women shut her legs and stop opening her legs to these weekends, will change. These young brothers will change if they can't get the pootie tang and they ain't getting it so easy. They'll change. And if the woman says, nigga, if you ain't in school, you ain't getting in here. If women start looking at a man's value and stop giving these men the opportunity to go and have sex and have a baby by you. Right. Would change. There's a lot of beautiful women out here, and their minds are right now, but they done had several babies by the weakest man.
Yeah, right? You go.
And now here they are looking for a good man with value, but somehow they messed up when they were younger, when they was in their early 20s. And that piece right there, we got this cycle that continues. So how do we save our young women? I raised my daughter. And I raised my daughter since she was 3 years old. I got custody of her because her mother has substance abuse problems. So I took on the raising of my daughter. She's now 30 years old. She's doing quite well. But the piece that I wanted to make sure was that even in teaching her the arts, of martial arts and everything, and how to fight, I didn't want her to be masculine. I still wanted her to have that feminine way. So I had to bring in certain women into my space to educate her and teach her and show her certain things. It's the same thing for men, the opposite for women who are raising it. If you do not have a man to come in there to teach them how to be men, you're going to have a child that's going to grow up and it's going to be a part of this messed up society that we have. That's right. Same thing we're talking about, two-family household. That's man and woman. That ain't woman and woman and man and man. Right. So we kind of got away from even that piece of what family looks like today. Today's family don't look like the few I grew up with. Right. It could be two men living in a household and they can adopt kids. Then you got two women living in a household. And what does that do for the child that's going to grow up? See how we're constantly talking about a cycle that we're doing to ourselves, and we're allowing it to happen because we're allowing the government to interfere and come into our homes through the televisions, YouTube, Facebook, and all these documentaries that are coming into our mindset. Then we treat, and the music we're listening to, or in the movies we're watching, definitely plays a great role because we are actually mimicking art. Art ain't mimicking us. We are mimicking art. And the more you allow it into your head, the more you hear that I'm independent and I don't need a man. That's an abusive woman.
Hey, John.
Statement. She's been abused by a man in her past to the word now she has a hatred or a deep-seated feeling against men. And that piece right there, it goes back to what we got to save our women. If we save our girls, this shit will change. Men will follow. These young boys will follow it if we only change our girls and get back. That wound she has in between our legs is what we're hunting for. We're hunters. And the thing about men, we're seeking either food, shelter, or mating, right? And the three things that women need to know about men. There's only three characteristics of a man. There's only three. There's not a 4 or 5. These three characteristics are what women innately are looking for in her nature, right? One is, the number one characteristic is a man that can survive. period. What woman doesn't want a man that can survive? The second characteristic is a man that can provide. What woman doesn't want a man that can provide? Every woman wants that. She wants a man that can survive out here and make it out here in this society, and she wants a man that will provide for her. Thirdly, she wants a man with guidance. Those are the three things. See that other shit, opening the door for you, giving you flowers, those things are just add-ons. Those are not the characteristics of a man because he gives you flowers and that's just to get the booty tamed. The three characteristics is being able to survive, being able to provide, and being able to have guidance for her. That's what she seeks. That's what she naturally seeks. And if the men are not carrying those type of characteristics, then what other choice do she have than another woman or a gay man?
Hey, John, listen up. Hey, John, you and I are old enough to know this song. John,
You are listening to The Tipping Point Show with your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, John Yeah. You ready? Streaming live all over social media and on your favorite music and podcast streaming platforms.
Yeah, you know what it is.
Also, check out thetippingpointshow.com. The Tipping Point Show.